Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special breakout session titled Performance Analytics, a Key Ingredient to Effective Governance. My name is Pedro Soto, and joining me is Michael Kachun, our lead presenter from the Bank of New York Mellon. And Mike, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Pedro. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Kachun. I'm the Director of Product Management for Bank of New York Mellon, specifically looking after tools such as ServiceNow.
Excellent. And my name is Pedro Soto. I'm with Westbury. I head up the consulting practice for performance analytics. And together with Pathways Consulting Group, who is the lead contractor in this very large project with BNY Mellon, we have been partnering with Mike and his team to implement performance analytics, and we're going to be sharing with you how the journey started and just a lot more about it.
All right, so today we're going to be discussing the following agenda items. The first thing is Bank of New York Mellon's PA journey, and some of the unique decisions that we as a firm may have taken as part of our journey. The second thing is we'll talk a little bit about how we're utilizing performance analytics in the role of governance at the bank and how we're utilizing it now and how we plan to utilize it in the future. We'll do a bit of a demo, and Pedro will definitely showcase how we can go ahead and implement this very quickly and give you guys some actual things to take back to your firms. And what are the key takeaways and the so what? What do we want you to leave this session with? So the first thing is, why did we start with PA at the same time as the rest of the platform? You'll see in my journey slide on the next page, we actually made that decision up front. That's not necessarily everybody has to do that same choice, right? You can definitely be well into your implementation and make the decision to utilize PA at some point. But I'll talk a little bit about why we did that. Utilizing PA to optimize governance and operations on the platform. So you'll hear our journey and how that links with utilizing that to drive operations and continuous service improvement, all right? And then ultimately how that's driving the maturity in the end state. The bank actually started looking at this as a whole in 2018. And really at that point, we were on a legacy platform or a couple legacy platforms, and there was a lot of it just general inconsistencies around what was being reported, by whom, even down to the level of what exactly are we actually reporting? Different people had different interpretations of what a mean time to acknowledge or a mean time to resolve actually meant from a data perspective. So because of that, because of these inconsistencies, because there really wasn't a central team looking over the process as a whole, right, we realized these were big problems that we needed to address. So in 2019, we made the decision to move on to ServiceNow. Right, and basically in March of that year. And we actually rolled out ITSM, ITBM, and GRC, leveraging people like the Westbury Analytics team here, as well as Pathways Consulting Group as being our primary implementation partner. And we were able to get those modules in. We were able to set up performance analytics at the start of that. We made that decision up front. And we actually also stood up internal process governance. So during the implementation, again, we made that active decision up front to make sure that we were not only going to implement the tool, but we actually put that control framework and that PA element, that governance framework in place right from the get-go to make sure that our processes were sustainable and improving over time. So as we moved into 2020, we actually took that centralized process management team, and we actually now started to involve more areas of the enterprise as a whole. So really, it was that enterprise process governance across the bank, across all of IT. We actually started really looking at maturing IT service management from all these different processes of incident, problem, change, request, et cetera. And we're also looking later this year to deploy Spotlight into our operations teams. And again, that's a component and it's a feature of performance analytics, which really starts to take away a lot of the guesswork around what do I need to focus on, et cetera, at any given time, because it's giving you those scores in a way that your operations teams are actually going to very quickly and easily see, well, regardless of, all these different factors, I know this is the most critical thing at any given time to work on. All right, so that's Spotlight. We're going to be doing that later this year. And then into 2021, it's really about, again, we started out with a central team, we launched it across the enterprise. Next year, it's more about getting that data out self-service and actually deploying what I consider as more like a gamification concept. All right, so this is really about down to the operator level themselves. They can maybe even see how they're performing against their teammates, the company as a whole. And again, we can gray out or hide the people's names, but it promotes that friendly sense of rivalry to try to become the best, right? And again, PA allows you to have all these different views in place in parallel to give these people different pieces of information that they're going to, help them do their jobs and also get better, right, over time. And that's that continuous service improvement item in 2021. So one of the things you may be considering, why choose one over the other, right? So reporting comes with the platform out of the box. And we really, again, we made the decision to use performance analytics right out of the gate. And it really was because of a few things that we call out on this slide. So from a reporting standpoint, it's useful, absolutely useful. It's more operational focused though. It's more about that single point in time. And it's really not about, again, the leading, lagging indicators that are hopefully giving you the historical trends to kind of continuously improve. That's where PA comes in and really provided the value to us up front. We were really looking at more of that historical trending, making sure that we put those controls in place that allowed us to improve over time. And the other thing it really helped us with was, as I mentioned before, instead of the cottage industry of everyone's trying to create their own version of these reports, which absolutely I've seen that happen at other companies, as well as even the bank here. It was really about, okay, we can create those centralized calculations, those widgets that can then be published, and then people can kind of go ahead and use those to make a dashboard however they want to make it look and feel, right? If you want a certain color scheme or you want to move things around in different spaces, that's absolutely fine. But we want to make sure that you're using the same way of measuring, right, and the same KPIs that we have across all the other dashboards that are out there. And that's what PA allows you to do. So governance is clearly critical to our business at Bank of New York Mellon. I'm sure it's the same case for everyone listening to this call. And really, it's around a couple things here, right? First thing we listed out was the connecting of the players, right? So this kind of picks up on the topic I mentioned before, connecting the layers of the organization together. Again, everyone's got their own view as to what they want to see, right? Central leadership, operational managers versus maybe the people actually working on those teams, working on the tasks day in and day out. So again, it's being able to kind of connect these players in various different views to kind of make sure they're all talking somewhat the same language as you're having these discussions to try to, figure out what needs to improve to drive maturity over time. The second thing is the power of the proven framework. So some of the things that we'll show you in the demo, and one of the reasons Bank of New York Mellon chose to partner with Pathways Consulting Group as well as Westbury was this power of the proven framework. We can go ahead and absolutely define hundreds, of metrics ourselves. But, again, my thought going into this whole project was there's only so many ways you can slice and dice data, and there are a set of industry standards out there. All right, so by using Westbury Analytics, they came in with that predefined set of metrics and KPIs that we could quickly adopt when we started on this journey. We adopted it, and we had massive acceleration in the maturity curve. So again, we weren't sitting around waiting, weeks, if not months, to build out all these different KPIs. We adopted it, we made some tweaks, and we hit the ground running. And then the last thing here is the real work, right? So by utilizing a combination of all these different things and the governance we put in place, now you're able to start driving tangible actions. You're able to have that dialogue across all the layers of the organization, and then you're ultimately able to align it back to those business goals that you're really trying to satisfy. Additional things from a PA helps in with governance perspective is, again, PA is allowing you to see quickly which way is the momentum going. Right? Again, you're not necessarily held back by, monthly reporting cycles, right? To wait and see what's going on, to take away actions, go ahead and make some changes and hope that the next month is going to be better. You're able to see it much more real time and to start to see which way the momentum is going at any given point. But more importantly, you're able to actually delve under the covers a little bit and start to see, well, what's driving that performance? right? How is it impacting all these different KPIs ultimately lead up to a key performance indicator, and ultimately, well, maybe there's sub components that are actually contributing to the issues of performance, not, and PA is actually giving you that ability to see exactly those different data sets and data points. Persona-based perspectives, again, clearly showing the different views to different levels of the organization. We look at the way that senior management, operational leaders, service owners, operations groups, et cetera, they're all looking at this data. And again, PA is helping them visualize the data in a way that's meaningful and impactful to them. All right. And the last thing, again, is because we're able to standardize this data gathering calculation work, we're able to go ahead and drive on that continuous service improvement journey. So with that, I'm going to pass over to my partner, Pedro, here to do a demo of the tools and a little bit about how we use them.
Mike, thank you. I want to share with you, before I jump into the demo, what is it that guides us at Westbury, and it's the following. We know that when you have trusted analytics that fuel collaborative discussions between executives, it really provides a powerful platform for an effective governance program. So I'm going to share just a couple of slides to really set up this demo. First thing is, we came into BNY Mellon with a framework. Many organizations spend a good number of months playing with performance analytics out of the box because it's a really cool tool, and they end up with a smattering of content all over the place that really has no organizing overall structure. And we identified that challenge, and so that's why we created these enterprise frameworks. And it follows the structure of how PA was intended to be used. In other words, instead of doing what was usually done in reporting, which is, hey, let's go report on mean time to resolution or first call resolution, because it's one of those critical KPIs. In performance analytics, you have to start with the end in mind, and the end in mind is to support the business goals. So the winning structure for a PA deployment is identify business goals clearly, identify the critical success factors that drive those business goals, and then look at the combination of leading and lagging indicators that drive those critical success factors that contribute towards the business goals. So that is the ingredient, the secret formula that we employ for every one of our enterprise frameworks across any of the domains, whether it's IT service management, ITBM, et cetera. The other thing that we want to look at is the actual framework itself. And this is a conceptual representation of it, which we're going to actually see live. But it basically looks at this bottom layer where you see IM, CM, PM. Those represent the ITIL processes: incident, change, problem, service level, etc. And that's the basis. That's the foundation of it. That's where all the work is being done. That work wants to be seen across the second level, which is the different personas, the different perspectives. So organizations are very interested in looking at it through a business service architecture, through an organizational structure or assignment groups. And that's one of the cool features in PA that allow you to do breakdowns and represent the formula to the different personas. Then the top level there are the views that executives are interested in understanding how the operation from the bottom is driving up and impacting cost, performance, customer experience, security, risk, agility, etc. So that is the conceptual order or structure of this framework. An example, so you have change management, and business goal typically in change management is to implement changes efficiently and effectively. Well, the three critical success factors that account for 90 to 95% in the impact of that business goal are these three that you see: success of changes, efficiency of changes, and impact of changes. So now we're going to go and actually take a look at how that maps onto a real live dashboard following this enterprise framework. And on the way there, we're actually going to see first a very interesting tool, a really cool tool that is available for free to every ServiceNow customer, and they can find it in the ServiceNow marketplace. It's called KPI Composer. And KPI Composer, it's a very effective way to accelerate working with your business stakeholders, your process leads, and your senior management to identify these business goals, identify the critical success factors, and then actually create that live as you're working with them so that it speeds up and makes a lot easier developing and identifying what these leading and lagging indicators are so that you can then take whoever's going to develop the dashboards for you and document what it is that you want. And I'm doing real quickly how you would actually build it. You would then be able to actually build the dashboard look, what it would look and feel like. Uh, Go and actually define the actual indicators that align with each of those KPIs and critical success factors and get a list of all the tasks that had to be done. So let me fast forward to the actual look and feel of what the whole KPI development is for the enterprise framework. So here, for instance, you see incident management, the business goal, change management, and you see those critical success factors: maintain change efficiency, maintain incidents caused by change, and maintain change success. These are the things that we customize for every client, but our experience already well over 20,000 hours working in PA is that these account for 90 to 95% of every environment that we go into. So we end up tweaking very little of it. Now let's look at what this actually looks like in practice in a real dashboard. So here's the executive performance index. This is the what executives would look like when it comes to performance. And you can see we created indices, which is something supported by PA, so that you can combine all those leading, lagging indicators, critical success factors to give you a snapshot view of how each area of focus that's important to you as an executive is doing, so that you can actually go and drill down on the things that you should be drilling down into. So here right now, you look at service cost index is the lowest performing one. In half a second, an executive can drill down into that and see why it's being driven that way. Let's go over now to the operational level. So here, and this is what we deployed at BNY Mellon. So this is the operational performance indices that we have identified for each of the key ITIL processes. As you can see here: incident, problem, change, request, etc. In one very quick half a second, for instance, Mike or one of his peers, or together with the service desk manager, or together with a process owner for incident or problem, you can immediately identify where things are going wrong. And to give you another example, here's the detail of change. So you saw before where we look at the entire operation, each of the ITIL processes. Here's what it looks like for change. An index as well, the trend of that index, and those critical success factors: change success rate, minimizing incidents caused by changes, and change efficiency, with their leading and lagging indicators. And you'll notice that there's a consistency of look and feel and structure to these, so that as Mike mentioned earlier, it's a lot easier to sit down with anyone in the organization and they get to see the perspective that's important to them, and they're looking at one version of truth. And that's what we've deployed at BNY Mellon.
Thanks, Pedro. So I actually think, again, that demo really is, highlights a couple of the key features, right, that we've deployed here at the bank. Again, from the centralized look and feel to, utilizing some of those key core frameworks, right? So we didn't have to go ahead and redefine what, is largely considered a business or industry best standard out there. So again, those are just some samples, but clearly PA is able to do even more than what was just quickly shown there. So what are some of the key takeaways, and what do we want you to walk away with today? The first thing is, and I mentioned it when I first started my presentation here, was around kind of a maturity model, right? Organizations across the gamut here are going to be, some may be in the aware phase on the left-hand side, some may be well on their way to an optimized version of maturity. I would say, the bank was probably more in the reactive state in kind of producing monthly reports. Again, not necessarily centralized, et cetera, where we're definitely well on our way to the managed proactive space, and hopefully even into more higher levels of maturity in the future. And again, it really is a journey, whether or not you're starting out at the beginning of an implementation, like we did. We started with PA right up front, or you're well on your way. It's going to be able to provide value at any point in time. So again, we would strongly encourage you to consider it when you start your journey of PA, but it's not necessarily a mandate. But even if you were to go down that route mid-flight or at the start of your journey, it's utilizing the best practices, right? You want to make sure that you're not only utilizing these best practices, but you also then customize them to your operation. So Pedro did touch on it in the demo. I would say we probably took what they had, tweaked it a bit, adjusted some of the KPIs, but we tried to stay as close to those business and industry best practices because, again, we want to make sure that we're looking at the right things and potentially just adding additional layers that are unique to our business. But just realize it doesn't have to be perfect from the start, right? So even if you were to go out and launch exactly the framework that's provided, or even if you were not to use some of these pre-canned frameworks, you were just to go out there and develop your own, it's a journey. It's going to be something where you might start with 5 KPIs today, 10 KPIs a couple weeks from now, et cetera, and it starts to just continuously improve the overall process and get more and more control over that over time, right? And it really is. PA is that tool, that engine that's going to help you drive that continuous service improvement over time. And that's really the key kind of message we want everyone to take away here is that, it's a combination of process, tools, people, data, right, all coming together. Utilizing these different things that that are available to you is really going to help you achieve success, both on your teams, at your company, et cetera. And we hope you are successful as we were in this implementation. And good luck to everyone.